Oops. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Music Theory Study Hall. Feel free to bring in your questions regarding music theory subjects, as well as if you want to talk about music composition, or if you're having trouble with MuseScore or Finale or any of those, I'd be happy to discuss those here. Just go ahead and chime in. This is the hour for it from 2 to 3. So, and I'll be going over some questions in general, just to pass time too. So, bring your questions, put them in the chat, put them in the comments, and I will answer. So we have the question, what does diatonic mean in music theory? So music theory, when we talk about diatonic, what we mean is basically in Western music, we mean it's the, the whole step keys or the basic standard key or the standard intervals like second, third, fourth that we go down. There are two different types of uh, intervals, diatonic intervals, which are the basic second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and octave, and then there are chromatic intervals that actually have different names, like major, minor second, major, minor third, perfect fourth, augmented fourth, diminished fifth, uh, perfect fifth, all the way up. So you have all those options, and sometimes what I'll see, perfect example of that is this. Say I'm going in a score here, and I'm going to change. I have some notes here. And I'm going to change key around. So we're basically changing the key around for a phrase. So I have some notes. Okay, so we have our notes here. And then let's say I want to bring those into, say I want to take this part, this measure, and I want to transpose it. What I would do, in this program at least, I would go into Tools, I would go to Transpose. Perfect example of this, you have the option to transpose diatonically to a key. Here are all the keys chromatically. To the closest key, or up or down, or you can choose an interval, you can click it. But if you do that way, it's still under the chromatic heading. So you have all of these different things. So you could go perfect unison, which that'll just keep it the same way it was. Or if you go back to Tools and you transpose it again, let's do the one down below that. See what happens. Augmented unison, which means it just sharps the first two notes and keeps it, just goes up a half step. What if we go transpose, and then we go by interval, augmented second. Kind of a weird way, but there you go. That's how it would be. So instead of what we had before, we have this weird old thing here. So that's chromatic. But let's say we wanted to change that back, and let's say we wanted to just do diatonic transposition. what we would do is just go, we wouldn't choose this one. We wouldn't choose the chromatic transposition. We would choose transpose diatonically. And this just has your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And your octave, of course. And then that's it. So if you just do second, that just brings it up a second. So there we have this. All right. And then let's say we can do that again. Let's transpose it down. Transpose it down a fifth from where it is. See how that changes it. Okay, so those are the different types of transpositions. Diatonic. Diatonic just means the basic second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, with no augmented or diminished intervals in there. But when you add the augmented and diminished intervals, you're dealing with chromatic shifts. You're dealing with chromatic intervals. So that is the answer to that one. So we have a question, what are dynamics in music theory? So essentially, dynamics are, we go over to this part. Dynamics are basically different volume levels of how you play. And you can actually have these very soft, or you can have extremely loud, like this one, or TCC mode like this. Very a lot of difference between those. Or you can have different. Let's try this. With this side. So we have a sforzando going to pianissimo suddenly, and then we have another sforzando in the second measure. It's just a sforzando in and of itself, and then it stays at a constant volume. Okay, so these are all the different dynamics that we have. If I click more, we could put more in here. There's a pianoforte here. There's also subito, or suddenly piano, or suddenly forte. So I could add to dynamics. I could do this. Or we could have 4 forte. We could have any one of these. So those are different dynamics and how we use them. So we have another question. What is a turn in music theory? Usually we have that in, we see that in a lot of piano music. So what a turn basically is when you have, say we have a few notes here too. Say we have those, and the turn looks like a sideways S. Sideways S in embellishment. So what we would do, we would actually put that find that S and put that in there. So turn this right here. And we just stick to the note like this. So you would have So you turn just like that. A little bit different than a mordant would be. Let's say if I copied this phrase. Without the turn on the second note, but what if I put a mordant on here? So mordant and turns, they're kind of different. So they're a little bit different, whereas the turn goes that, the mordant only goes up to the D and then goes back down. And then we have this. Let's say if we have this up here again, we can have a short trill. That's a little bit different than a mordant. And then I'll just paste it. And go here. Entry. Use quarter note to finish up the measure, and then there you go. So there we go. Here's our little master book here. So those are the different kinds of turns and trills and what have you. We have another question. What are the accidentals of music theory? So accidentals refer to these black notes that you see. So if I were to bring this keyboard up, make it so it's a floating window instead of sticking. Maybe you guys could see that. See that? Probably. The accidentals are the white notes on the keyboard here. Those are sharps and flats. That's what we call them, sharps, flats, and naturals. Naturals are usually the white notes here. And then whenever we have a few notes that need to be altered, we just raise them up a half step, and then there's an accidental. There's a sharp. Then let's say we want another sharp, and then guess what? We want a flat here. So you could also go from natural E to flat E. That's another accidental. That's what those are. And then if you wanted to cancel out the E, you just go back up a half step, and a natural sign gets put there. So those are the accidentals that are commonly used. They're also double flat and double sharp. So this one and this one, double sharp, double flat. So what is the scientific study of music? The scientific study of music is the study of sound. And music is an art form that uses sound, and the music can be produced with an instrument or with a human voice. So whatever sound we could produce. So the scientific structure has to do with sound waves and how the waves of air, how fast the waves of air, or how slow the waves of air pass through the regular airflow. There's one course, Composition 100, where I talk about the main properties of sound. And one of those is pitch, and one of those is duration. So pitch is basically the air at which you're singing or playing is greater than the the mass airflow. So it creates a sound. Therefore, there you go. So the thing that you just heard was a mix of different tempo alterations. Accelerando was the first one. That means to speed up. So the second measure we see is sped up on the music there, the melody there. So let's play it again. So you sort of raise up the tempo as you go. Usually lasts for a few measures until there's an odd tempo, which means two tempo. And then I put a retinuto in. So the retinuto usually more so, but more temporarily than a retardando. And it may, unlike a retardando, apply to a single note, where rather than an entire phrase. Although the ritenuto can actually go for an entire phrase, but it's actually means held back. That's what the ritenuto word means. The notes are held back more than they are in retardando. I see that a lot in string music and solo violin music in the parts. If they want to accentuate uh, a different part, they'll put a ritenuto in there just to make things to make the soloist part stand out. So ritardando and ritenuto are basically both slowing down, but the ritenuto is a lot slower in the slowdown. So retardando is a whole lot more gradual slowdown. So what does largo mean? Largo means very long, holding up, and it's very long and very slowly. So for instance, I would play this. That's how slow and how long the notes will be held out for. Okay, so I have a question for you all. Can you guess what tonal center that was? So there were two different tonal centers that this piece or this block of music fell into without putting a key signature on each of them, without putting a key signature on it. Can we tell which tonal center each of these, can we tell the tonal center of the first measures 1 to 9? Telling tonal center of measures 1 through 9. Exactly. So what do we see? The flat and the B should give it away. That's just a hint. I should say the recurring B flat should give it away. So if you guessed F, you would be right for the tonal center. So F would be the first tonal center. What about the second tonal center from 11 to 18? With the largo starts. Okay, if you guessed A at A minor, you'd be in the right ballpark. So that would be that those would be the two keys without guessing the key signature. So if we were to put the key signature in, here's what it would look like. So let's make sure I'm sharing all of this. Yep, we're on that one. Okay, and then that's our this one, and then we're going to change key signatures to A minor. There you go. That's what those key signatures would look like now. All right, so that was a good challenge. Okay, we have a question of what collando means. Collando means to have both a decrease in tempo and in volume. The effect of both of a ritardando and a diminuendo at the same time. So I were to put on this example that we have here, instead of a retinuto, what if I changed this up? Give this a dynamic first. Still kept the good show around there, but then kept the same. But then what I did is if I did tempo moderation or alteration, and I went to collando, it would gradually decrease the tempo and the volume. So let's play that back. So it did slow down a lot. Not as much of a volume freeze. Um, I would put an extra hairpin, uh, but normally the player will actually diminuendo as well as slow down. If it's collando, they'll actually slow down and quiet down on the volume as they go. So if they're doing this, they'll know to do that. So there you have it. On another term, in tempo terms, allegando means to widen, and it's an indication to gradually broaden the tempo to slow it down. A slow rallentando that retains full and prominent tone, just to stretch. I think I like thinking of allegandos as time to stretch out each tone, to stretch out each tone to its full potential, and to give it all its potential time that it needs, broaden the tempo. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up. If there are no more questions, I will go ahead and end this, and I will go ahead and see you in next Friday's class. Please be sure to sign up, and I'll see you over there.